everything that anybody has achieved began with one step at a time. So often people put all their energy and excitement on the goal. I say, take that energy and excitement, use it for every step along the way, because every step that you're giving your full energy and attention to and excitement to is contributing to that big vision.
Hi, and welcome to the HackCess Show. It's the place where you can find life hacks on how to become the best version of yourself and achieve your goals. We show you how to walk the talk from successful people. And today we have Mar here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on the show. What's your vision of success compared to when you first started? And is it like as much as you expected? Is it better? Is it worse?
It's much better. Where I started was from a place of a tremendous challenge that turned into a great opportunity. I had no idea that such a challenge in my life was actually one of the greatest blessings. I never planned on the business that I am involved in today. And at the time, I wasn't even thinking about this as a successful path that it actually led to. So I'm very grateful about that.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you more, how do you view challenges? Do you think that you can always grow from them, or are there some that are just unsurmountable?
I believe you can grow from anything. You know, it's interesting because recently I went through an unexpected challenge that hit me in a way that I did not expect. And because of that, and it went deeper than normal. And because of that, I thought to myself for those moments, I had those moments, oh, I regret being involved in this situation. You know, I went through that whole beginning period of, oh, how was I so stupid? You know what I mean? You get into this kind of mindset. And I didn't expect that to happen to me because I'm such a positive person, and everything that comes my way, I always see as an opportunity to overcome. But when this hit a chord with me so deep, it almost like opened up an older wound I didn't realize I still had. It took me a little while. It took me just, I think maybe about 2 to 3 days to just sit with the feeling. And that's an important part. I always say to clients, to people, to friends, face your feelings, be with your feelings. Because a lot of times they feel so uncomfortable that they fool you to think that what is happening is very negative. But in actuality, when you sit with the feelings and you go through it a little deeper and you start to discover what is going on, you recognize there's a lot of healing, there's a lot of growth, it's an opportunity. So I actually recently went through something very deep that ended up proving to me once again that no matter what you go through, it is a tremendous opportunity. I learned so much from it, and I'm very grateful.
Mm-hmm. I love that view on that, actually. And also, since I know that you work a lot in the world of fitness, can I ask you how your approach is different towards conquering an emotional challenge, let's say, versus something physical, like a
Yes.
workout or something like that?
It's actually a great question because I'm working on a book called Physical Awakening, and that's actually the premise about it. The premise behind the book is that your emotional challenges are very much like a workout. However, how most of us in the fitness world, when we work out and we carry those heavy weights, let's say, and we enjoy them because, well, you know what I mean? It's kind of like that love-hate relationship, but we know we do it because we know that when we get that sore feeling, when we get to that edge, we know that that's going to grow our muscles, that's going to build our endurance, you know, whatever goals we're going for in our fitness or flexibility. So we do it, and we do it knowing that the outcome is for growth. But when it comes to emotions, many of us face emotions and we think, oh gosh, it's so uncomfortable, it's so hard, it's too painful. But the way that I actually have come to see it is that, and this is again the premise of my book, is that facing emotional challenges is like a workout. And if you see these emotions like weights that you're lifting, right? Or if you think of cardio, whatever you like to think about when you work out, they really are there to help support and expand and build your strength and resilience, your adaptability. So my approach, that ever since I started thinking of it that way, it's actually been a lot more, I would say I take it on with a lot more ease. I take things on now with a lot more comfort. Not that I don't go through this discomfort. Obviously, I just went through something I shared with you, but while I'm in it, I recognize, okay, I'm working out. This is a workout right now. And if I can continue moving forward, then I'm going to gain those rewards just like I do when I'm at the gym.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about regrets a little bit earlier. Do you have like a trick, or when you're maybe in not such a good place, and or you just have regret? Like personally, I like if I have a regret, I'm like, okay, I have to do this, and like, oh, maybe I didn't visit the place I wanted to go to, so I'm gonna do it. And
Yeah.
how do you work with that?
First, I take space, because our minds get so busy. We have so many thoughts. Many of them belong to us in our programming and conditioning. Many of those thoughts are not coming from us. They're just coming from, we hear voices and things like just from, let's say we had a conversation with a friend, so it's still lingering there, or we watched a video, so that's still lingering there, or a movie. And many times we don't recognize just how easily influenced we are and how easily we absorb all the information visually, sensorily, auditorily, through everything on a daily basis. And so we are being bombarded by so much noise. And whenever I hit any point where it's like a regret or something deep, I know it's time, and I'm having trouble being with it. I know it's time to take space. So one of the things that I do is I take some space. I feel my body. And once I just start doing that and I start doing some breathing, I'll still have some of those thoughts that will come in, but they'll eventually start to subside. And then I'll gain more clarity. And then I'll start to have those insights that have the greater, more broader, expanded point of view that allow me to recognize everything is perfect. Everything that you're going through right now is exactly how it needs to be. And everything that's happening is actually helping your journey. And see, that's the thing, we have a choice, because it's interesting with this whole pandemic. I've noticed it's incredible how many people have stepped up to really face it, face what's happening, find ways to adapt, build their resilience and strength. And at the same time, I've seen people who they become victims of everything. Oh my gosh, look what's happening to me. I can't do anything. Everything is bad. And they are getting into this victim mode. But so you have a choice. And so if you fall into this victim mode, then naturally it's going to be harder to see things like, you had mentioned, have regrets and not be able to move past them because you're so stuck in this way of thinking. But I do believe that if people allow themselves to feel, and if they sit with the feeling and if they take the space, that is pretty remarkable, what they can see and how things can become more clearer.
Mm-hmm. And when you speak of taking this space for yourself, that sounds a lot like meditation to me, actually. And
Yes.
do you schedule those moments when you need to take a break, or is it more like of a reaction?
It's a combination of both. So I'll explain. Because I've been on this path seeking for a long, long, long time, ever since I was a little girl, I've always been questioning what is life, all those questions. I went through many different experiences. I did Vipassana meditation, where you go away for 10 days. There's no reading, no writing, no speaking. They separate men and women into two different camps. And we're basically silent with no distractions for 10 days. So I've had this experience along with many others because of my yoga background and so on. But what I've come to learn is that really it doesn't take much. You really don't need such complicated, like, people, of course, will be gravitated toward what feels best. So I always encourage that, because all paths lead to one. We all have our paths. So I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. But for me, I have come to find that it's actually much more simple. And it's not that complicated to be able to be with yourself. We make it out to be, okay, do I have to chant something? Do I have to have an affirmation? Do I have to, sometimes we do. For me, what's really worked is just being with myself and facing myself. So if I'm feeling really triggered, if I'm feeling very uncomfortable, I love going into nature. I love taking a walk and breathing the fresh air. I love sitting in my backyard, looking at the trees and soaking in, the flowers, and just feeling nature and allowing it to ground me and settle me. Because I feel that when you do that for yourself, it's interesting what happens. You start to, again, feel this groundedness with it all. So for me, a lot of it is just stepping out into nature, whether it's walking or just laying in my backyard. And sometimes it's a matter of me just always being an observer of my reaction versus my responses. So my meditations involve a bit of both. If I'm very triggered and if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I will absolutely schedule space. And I do this anyway, by the way. I love my quiet time. So pretty much every day, I definitely do about 20 minutes minimum of some quiet time. But if I'm feeling extra triggered, I will take definitely more space. And I love to move. Oh, that's one more thing I want to say. See, a lot of times people think meditation is by just being still. When your body is physically overwhelmed and there's a lot in there that is trying to work itself through, I sincerely have noticed, experienced, researched that actual movement is very good to help, because an emotion is energy in motion. And many times we get so stuck and so triggered that we go into fight or flight mode, and those feelings get really embedded in our body. So, and then we get very psychological. So a really great way is to move. So I mentioned walking, but another one of my favorite go-tos is dancing. I love dancing. So a lot of times I will put music that really moves me, and I will just allow my body to move till I feel a little bit more settled. And then I'll go into more of a reflective meditation space.
Yeah, I think it's super important. And for meditation, there are so many different ways. And yeah, you can do, of course, like the still meditation. But what I like to do as well is when I go like to point A to point B, I just do meditation, and in my head, I repeat a mantra or something like this. And
Exactly.
and do you have other rituals? You talked about working out and meditation. Do you have something like a daily routine that gets you pumped up during the day or something like this?
Yeah, I pretty much start my day working out. I love, well, first of all, when I wake up, one of my habits has really been to hold a space for gratitude. I have found, and I do this actually in the morning and at night. So no matter what thoughts are coming through me, no matter what is happening, I find those thoughts that say, what can I be grateful for right now? No matter what is happening, what can I see that I can appreciate? Whether it's my children, it's something great that happened with my work, it's something that I felt, it's a beautiful exchange I had with someone, or a saying. And this has become a daily ritual that has really been supporting my path, because it keeps things in perspective, helps to balance things that sometimes can get out of whack. Yeah, has helped me tremendously.
And do you do the same for your goals as well? Like I know I do like a gratitude journal every single day, and in the morning I do it too. And I'm like grateful for my goals that are not there yet, but I'm like grateful for the way I would feel when I get to this point. Do you do
Yes.
the same as well? Some kind of thing like
I
that?
do. You know, it's interesting. Okay, one thing I for sure that's a ritual is I write things down. That all my goals, I write them down, because I'm very clear that what I write down materializes than if I just have it stuck in here. And I'm very flexible, because one thing that I've learned when it comes to having my goals is that there's the way that I envision it happening, which is very powerful. Imagination is powerful. But sometimes, because I'm such a go-getter and I love charging forward and I like making things happen, which can work for me to some extent, on the other extent, it can also limit me, because sometimes, you know, the ability to have that experience of life's mystery, you know, life wanting to come in and say, hey, I want to show you a surprising way of how this is going to come to you. That's important to come in. So what I've learned about myself is I've learned to have my goals, to write them down, but at the same time, stay open to how those also happen. Like, really, if something doesn't go exactly my way and how I envisioned it, trusting that it will happen, but just maybe life perhaps has another way of bringing it to me. And so that's been a lot of fun. I've really been enjoying that, because it's pretty cool what happens when you're open to that.
I love that idea. And you talked about, you know, setting your goals in a way that you write them down and then you try to do them in a day, let's say. Is how important do you think is it to actually plan to do things instead of just having, you know, a to-do list or a list of any kind of goals that you want to achieve in a given time frame, but that's not set yet? How important?
Yes, I think, you know, it's really a matter of priorities, because I have so many goals and I'm such a creative person, and I get a ton of ideas and I get really excited about all of them, right? And for me, when I plan everything, I look to see what's a priority right now. What is it right now in my life that I must do and must move forward, that needs my attention, that needs to be worked through right now, in order for everything else to happen? And what are some goals and things that I have, but are not necessarily needing to come in this moment or in this week or even next week, but maybe they're about 3 to 6 months down the line. So I think it's really important to prioritize your goals. That'll make things a lot easier, because when I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially the ones in the creative field, I see that they just get so excited, but easily so stuck because they're so overwhelmed by so much that they want to do. And they're all wonderful things. And then you have daily living that comes in, like I mentioned, right? The ritual of my gratitude, my workout, my taking my quiet time, I have my children. There's so many things. And then there's the unexpected things. There's the unexpected email from an instructor that needs extra support today or something like that, right? There's always things going on. But I find that when you're very clear about what you need to prioritize and what's a must, that it helps everything else fall into place. And then for those very rare times, because they do happen, where it's one of those days where everything is upside down and even the priorities may not be able to get done. In those days, you just let go. You let go. You're like, okay, it's one of those days. I'm riding the roller coaster. I'm on this roller coaster ride. Just go with it. It will be okay. So I feel that prioritizing and also knowing when to let go in those moments where, you know, it's completely out of your control, things are upside down, and you know what? It'll work out. It'll work out somewhere or another. It'll work out.
And how do you manage? You talked about creative persons and this kind of people with maybe multiple projects at the same time. What's your like go-to advice, or how do you do it when you have multiple big projects that you have priority number one and priority number two, but you have to allocate time to both of them?
You do.
Yeah.
And the way that I see it is kind of, I always give this analogy. Remember when you were in college, or at least, you know, when I was in college, you prioritize time to go to this class to learn about this topic, you know, and then you went to another class to learn about this topic, and then you set aside to do an assignment for this class versus that class. It's kind of the same thing. You know, I always tell people, plan your day out, plan your week out. And if you have these projects, do you have to do or work on both of them in one day? Or can you set aside one day to focus on one versus the other on another day? If you do have to do it in one day, can you even set aside 1 hour to focus solely on one project versus another? You know, there's this interesting perspective about multitasking, but I have found that it's really the focus. When you're so focused on one thing at a time, everything follows through that much easily and efficiently, versus you, let's say, having, okay, I'm working on this project, but I'm also having myself think about this other thing I need to do and work on. They coincide, and then your ability to be that much more creative or even give your energy and full attention to it gets compromised. So if you have, let's say, 2 projects going on and you need to work on them simultaneously, I would just say map out your week or even your day where you know you can focus on each one separately.
I love that. First of all, thank you so much, because I am in college, so it really does help me to kind of get a better grasp on that. But can I ask you, how important do you think it is to be creative to be successful? Is it essential?
Yes, yes, yes. I believe, especially because one of the questions I get asked a lot from entrepreneurs, because I work with so many coaches in a variety of fields, and competition is a big thing. So-and-so is, you know, offering the same service as I am, and she just came out with something similar, and how do I work with that, this and the next? And what's important to know is that there's really no new thing, if you will. Like if you go down to the root foundation of everything, yes, we have our imagination. I believe all ideas pretty much are out there. I feel that for the most part, the majority of the part, but I feel that the way we express them is what makes it unique. So if you have 2 people, 3 people, 5 people giving the exact same speech with the exact same wording and punctuation and everything, the expression of that speech is going to be far different from every person based on their personality, based on a number of things. So the more that you get to know yourself and you're comfortable with yourself and you really embrace who you are, because a lot of times we can be these perfectionists beating ourselves up. But the more you just embrace everything that you are and who you are, you'll be able to show up in such an authentic way for everything that you do that it'll express itself very uniquely. And people will recognize that. So for me, that is such an important factor for people to open up to, because a lot of times they get so stuck in the out here, you know, the external aspect, and they forget a lot of times that the answers and the expression and the uniqueness of what you do comes from you. So that's where it brings me to the creative part, because even with this pandemic, it's incredible how many businesses have taken what's going on, and because they have accepted it, so acceptance is big, and they said, okay, I accept the situation as it is. I'm not going to blame, you know, I can blame, and so on, and I can go through my feelings. That's natural. But now comes the time where I'm going to accept it and I'm going to find a solution around it. And then you open up to it, and then you connect with yourself and your creativity. And then you find the solution. And I've seen so many businesses that have found creative ways of working through the closures, the lockdowns, and different things that are happening, and actually have opened up new avenues for their business, new ways of expressing, new ways of connecting. So creativity for me is a huge factor, along with adaptability. I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Yes. And I myself find that I can only be creative when I'm not in competition. You know, as an actor myself, it's something that I have to, you know, put myself away from. But I used to be an athlete. I used to do a lot of track and field, and I was always in competition. But what do you think is the healthier approach towards the view on competition?
Mm-hmm. Yes, no, I agree with you. You know, competition, it's an illusion, really, because really at the end of the day, you're really, if you really do want to compete, it's really with yourself. Like, where was I? Where have I been? I mean, yes, we have measurables for track and field, even dance. I do ballroom dancing. But at the end of the day, it really is about facing yourself and your potential and your abilities. If you make it too much about the other person, it really overrides your potential. You know, you can see what's out there, you can see someone else's potential, so long as it doesn't take, you know, to use as, well, that's a possibility for me, but not so that you can hold yourself back and do this constant comparison and how can I beat them or outperform them. It's more about, I see competition as a healthy way of seeing what your potential is. And once you recognize what your potential is, then you tap into your creative expression about it. Because two people, like I said, can be doing exactly the same thing, or even track and field, or in entrepreneur businesses, you know, similar services, but yet their expression of it will be very different.
Mm-hmm. And talking about, you know, becoming a better version of yourself and not falling into the competitive mindset, how do you do that on a daily basis? And you keep, like, I know it's very easy to look at the competition and, you know, maybe be like, oh, what are they doing at the moment? What's working, what's not, you know? And how do you fall into this category? How do you, you know, keep on getting educated and growing?
That's a really great question. You know, for me, believe it or not, that's one of my, that's become one of my easier one of my easier challenges is the competition part, because I think life threw me through, when I started my business 11 years ago, life threw me through the ringer pretty quickly. I had an idea of expressing my business in a way where I took a profession that was just beginning, this baby planning profession, and I found a creative way to express it. And I wanted to also raise the standards for this industry. And so I was the first in the industry to create a certification program. As soon as other businesses saw what I was doing and they realized, wow, why didn't I think of that? They came pretty hard on me. They just started competing to a point where I was taken aback to the extent that people would go to try to discredit someone just so they can get ahead. And so this was my entry into you know, a more expanded way of my business. This was how I entered starting this business. And I learned very quickly that if you get too caught up in competition, if you concern yourself so much about what someone else is doing, number one, you're feeding their energy. So you're actually helping them, because you're giving them energy and attention that they can easily use to move further ahead. At the same time, you're taking energy away from yourself. So I feel once you accept the fact that people are going to do similar things, and yes, once you accept the fact, because this has happened to me too, that people will copy. Some people that copy do it illegally, you know, and you have to weigh out, is it worth my time? You know, how much is this going to financially impact my business? And is it worth my time to really pursue this legally? Or is this something that is not going to really impact? It might a little, but it's really not worth it because it will take up so much energy and time that I'd rather dedicate that to my business. And something, again, within the first, let's see, 2 years of my business. So in the first year, I had that massive competition coming. In about this, between the second and third year, I had someone that joined my company and within the first few months left, started a very similar program, took a number of my students. I had recently become pregnant with my son, and I had to sit with that and face that and say, am I going to spend my pregnancy? Is it worth me spending my pregnancy dealing with this? Or can I trust that as hard as this was, and as, you know, a situation that felt, you know, so awful that for someone to do, can I trust that life will work that out? That person will have, you know, they'll learn their lessons they need to learn. And if I spend that time and energy really honing more in and on my business and what I can do to take things to the next level, you know, how that will work for me. So just really quickly, what ended up happening is I made that decision to let it go. And what ended up happening is that life then put me in a position to expand upon one of my passions that originally I thought someone else was going to express in a much better way. And life said, no, Mar, that person left, they started their own thing. Now you need to do it. You need to be the face behind, you know, and the vision and the voice behind this program. So life gave me that opportunity. It actually is, till this day, my top selling program, continues to be. And that situation, again, a tremendous challenge, ended up being a huge blessing for me. So I feel that a lot of times when we're faced with competition, we have to really face ourselves and not spend so much time making it about the other person. If they're triggering us, we have to ask ourselves, what is it that is triggering us? Is it because we see that they're shining in a way that we've denied ourselves? Is there something about their program that they're doing that I've denied in the way that I express it? Because they're right in expressing however they want to express and how I want to express. And one last example I'll give you, this reminds me, when my daughter was doing a play with her school, I remember that 3 children were all fighting. They were, I think, in 4th grade. They were fighting for the same role. And it was very hard for the teacher to choose. So the teacher then decided, and I thought this was so clever, you know what? I'm going to allow all 3 of you to actually do this role, you know, and just recite it, you know. And so what was so interesting is right away, she just allowed that competitive, I want it, no, I want it, and said, you know what, why don't all of you have it? And we'll figure out a creative way of doing this because they so bad. So anyway, long story short is that a lot of times competition just shows us our potential. It's not you, you know, me versus you, right? It's really about where am I limiting myself? And this person is reflecting to me those aspects of me that I've been denying. And so if I can see that, then I have a much easier time. So for me, when people come with competition now, I'm like, oh, okay. It's not, I actually don't spend much time unless it's something, you know, involving legal that, you know, sometimes I have to look at. I really don't spend much time with competition.
Okay. And if you, like, maybe if you have to give an advice to your younger self, would you say something, or would you just do the exact same way?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because on the one hand, you would have to say that every experience that I have been through has led me to where I am today. Mm-hmm. And if I were to have changed any of it, I don't know that I would be the same person today. And am I really grateful for who I am today? Absolutely. I would say though, the advice, you know, and I think this is actually a really great question that people should regularly visit, because often we get so stuck in being perfect and having to do everything right and in the responsibilities that we have, that we often forget that the self-nurturing and the self-care is really a big part of our success, at least for me. And saying to myself, it's okay. Being my own mother to myself, being my own nurturer to myself is really important. So I would say that I would not change anything, but what I would say is that having developed this voice, if I had, and this is why I give back, by the way, this is why I love doing the work that I do, because I give people the things that I, as a child or going through my experiences, would have loved to have in terms of support. So I would say, nurturing myself and saying, it's okay. You know what? You went through that, you learned from that, and it's all right. And just nurturing myself through that. That's important. I think everyone should give themselves that for sure.
Mm. And you talked about, success. And I think that a lot of people put unrealistic expectations on their goals and their success. Do you have maybe an advice for that? And how do you break down maybe a big goal? Or do you think it's better to, go to like hit a smaller target and then replan, or, aim for something very big and just stay on course?
Yes. I feel that when you have a big vision, and most of us do, but many of us are afraid, can I really do that? We doubt ourselves. I believe we've all been gifted very powerfully with creativity and imagination and big, tremendous visions that we can all contribute to this world. And what happens is that often we see the vision and we don't realize, or we forget that that big vision has a journey that takes a lot of steps. And everything, it's not, all of a sudden everything, even if you look at nature, everything in nature has steps that it goes through in order to achieve, or whatever you want to consider there. So I feel that if you have, which most people do, the passion, the workaholics, let's say, people that are so eager and driven, those qualities are great to have, but put them in check, because you can also spend so much time dissipating that energy when you're not looking at things practically and realistically. So when you have a big vision, it's important to ask yourself, how can I get there? What steps do I need to take to get there? And knowing that each of those steps is something you can get just as excited about as the vision. So often people put all their energy and excitement on the goal. I say, take that energy and excitement with the goal and use it for every step along the way, because every step that you're giving your full energy and attention to and excitement to is contributing to that big vision.
Yeah, I like that. All right, I think we've been talking for a while. You have another question? Are you good?
No.
All good? All right, I think we can do promo time for you. So whatever you have going on in your life right now, let us know. And if we have stuff to check out, that's your time.
Sure. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I'll just tell you a little bit about what I do. So I have an organization called the International Parenting Health Institute, and we offer professional training programs for those that want to become coaches in several fields, whether you want to become a sleep coach, a nutrition coach, a health and lifestyle coach. And what makes us very unique is that the way we approach things is very holistically, in the sense that when you study with us, your journey is not just about helping a client, it's about discovering who you are. And what's interesting to me is that you had mentioned this word success. And when it comes to success, for me, one of the greatest successes in life is understanding who you are. Because when you are connected with who you are, when you're constantly learning about yourself, you have this ability over time to build a resilience and strength and groundedness that no matter what comes your way, and a lot of things do, you can get through them. And so our organization and all the courses that we offer are all dedicated, and the kind of coaching we offer is all dedicated toward transforming lives. So if you're someone that's out there and you're really interested in, working in a profession that is flexible, that you can do from home, that, you want to empower people in their change of lifestyle or health, and you also at the same time are open to developing yourself, then definitely check us out. Our website is parentinghealthinstitute.com. This is for the future. I'm coming out with 3 books. The first one is Physical Awakening, which I mentioned earlier. That's in the works. Then, and see, these are future goals, real future goals. The second one is Luxury Living from the Inside Out. And then the third one is Become the Choreographer of Your Life. So these are all, visions that I have and things that I'm going to be sharing about personal development, sharing with everybody practical ways that they can meet life, because meeting life is a very beautiful thing. And it's not a scary thing. It's scary when we feel we don't have the resources, especially those inner resources. So all my books are sharing a lot of those inner resources that you can turn to, that many of you were not taught to have or didn't know that you had. And I talk about all of them. And then let's see what else. Basically, that's about it. If you just also want to check for fun, I model and I dance and I, teach a variety of fitness classes and things like that. You can always check out Mar De Carlo. If you just check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and I always do like a motivational, talk or some reel or some quote. I'm always changing it up. And that's basically about it.
Okay, that was a great episode. So what are your key takeaways on this episode, man?
Well, I really think that it's about, working on yourself, finding a connection with yourself and never being in competition. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what she said. And to me, that makes so much more sense, taken into my own context of being an actor. It is about working on yourself, being in competition with yourself, doing better than you did last time, or just sometimes not messing it up. That can be a goal in itself. So I think that view on competition really does coincide with my own, and it just added to it. What about you, Matthew? What are you going away with?
She had a lot of interesting points, and competition was a big one, of course. And I think it's very hard to not be in competition with other people, especially with social media now. And it's hard to not look at what other people do and all that. But yeah, I think the competitions should stay healthy and just be with yourself and just working on becoming a better version of yourself. And of course, she talked about, having a goal, an ultimate goal, and just enjoying the little steps. I think it's a big part of just life, being happy with the little steps and enjoying the journey. That's a big part of success, because if you're just fully depressed while you're working and then you get to success and you're like, it's not like a magic switch. You're like depressed and happy when you hit your target. If you're always happy with what you do and you enjoy the little steps, it's going to be so much more fun. It's going to be like, life is going to be fun. And yeah, I think that's the main point that I really like. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for watching the HackCess Show.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Ooh, that was nice. You think they're going to do it?
Yeah, I think they're going to do it.